You know, I told myself this year that I was going to take my channel a little bit more seriously because I kind of wanted to try to easy my way on to doing YouTube full time. And I'm pretty sure this video is going to get demonetized. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, and if you're new here, hi, my name is Zharia, and I typically make commentary videos, kind of like this one. The vibes are a little bit off today because I have strep, and this is the first day where I haven't felt like my throat is clawing at me, and it feels like it's burning so bad. So I have some tea with me, so if you see me sipping some tea, it's not to be shady, it's just that my throat is burning. Also, life update, my dog tore her ACL. I've had a very rough go of it this past week. But hi, I hope you're doing amazing. Comment down below if you've had a great Mercury retrograde. You know, I really went out with the bang this one. But yeah, so today's video, I'm going to be talking about cannibalism. I don't really know what I'm going to title this video yet, but it's an interesting one. In the words of Kesha, I am a cannibal. I am a cannibal. I am a cannibal. I am a cannibal. You know, she isn't actually truly a cannibal, but it was just a catchy little tune that she made. And younger Gen Z actually did try to cancel her for that song for mentioning Jeffrey Dahmer, because of the whole Dahmer series that was coming out. Everyone was trying to cancel her for this song that's whatever. But I was bumping this song in middle school on my MP3 player that I illegally downloaded. And, you know, it is what it is. You know, that's how we lived in the 2010s. You know, a couple of news publications have been deeming 2022 as the year of the cannibal, because there was so many things coming out about cannibalism. There were so many shows, movies, everything you can think of was all surrounding cannibals in 2022. So almost 2 years ago, I made this video on why like incest becoming a trend. This was due to the fact that it was right in the middle of the pandemic. Everyone was stuck at home, and for some reason, people were just really obsessed with incest then. Who would imagine why? But I made a video on incest, and it kind of was just a stream of thought that I was having at the moment, back when I posted 2 videos a week, when I had the time to do that, and I was so full of creativity and ideas. But this video is going to kind of be like that. Not as much as my other videos are, where it's like, you know, a deep dive. This is kind of just my thoughts on something. Yeah, I kind of thought a little bit too much about this topic, and it was kind of haunting me for the past couple of weeks. Regardless, what prompted me to want to make this video and what made me think about wanting to make a video on cannibalism anyways was because I recently watched the movie Bones and All. Oh god. I also have water. I don't know how I'm going to get through this video. There's going to be a lot of probably random jump cuts from me coughing and or drinking tea or water so that I don't die. This movie is starring Nepo baby Timothy Chalamet and non-Nepo baby Taylor Russell. It's a very cute movie. It's based off of a book. My general review is that it was a little bit slow. The pacing was a little bit whatever. It was cute and all, and it gave me very much Call Me By Your Name vibes, but I think that's the same director. It's a romantic movie where these two people, they're outcasts in the world. They're both cannibals, and they fall in love. And there's a random man that stalks them the entire time. But the movie definitely could have been worse. I've seen some people who love this movie, and some people who say this is one of the worst movies that they've seen of last year. So it's mixed reviews all across the board. But I'm pretty neutral in the movie. I would give it like a 3 out of 5. So recently, in 2022 specifically, we had movies such as Fresh come out. We also had rumors that Armie Hammer was a literal cannibal, and people were making jokes about it, as though if this man was really a cannibal, that is not funny. It is not a joke. People being cannibals have been very prominent in the media. It's been more so seen as a joke. You know, we've seen like, oh, politicians like to eat babies in their free time. There's a random church of cannibals in California. There's always like this weird stuff that's kind of always been in the background, but I feel like this year specifically has been very prominent of the cannibalism talk. It's morally wrong, obviously, and you will go to jail if you do eat somebody. So if you're at home thinking to yourself, maybe I would love to have, I don't know, a thigh, don't do it. It's not worth it. And also that's gross and morally wrong. But I feel like ever since the pandemic, there has been a huge rise of this cannibalism content. I'm a horror fan and I dabble in reading a little bit of true crime, and this definitely has been seen in a lot of movies recently, but it's not also something that is entirely brand new either. So I think that either one, the media is trying to kind of ease us into the idea of cannibalism to think that it's not that bad or like that weird, kind of like how doing cocaine was seen as something that was really weird, but now it's very common, and I see TikToks to this day of people doing coke so just flippantly, or they're trying to ease us into cannibalism, for when our population, overpopulates and we kind of dissipate all of our resources and we kind of have no choice but to cannibalize. So they're trying to ease it into our thought processes now. I don't know what it is, but the point is that there's a lot going on with cannibalism, and I want to talk about it because I'm weird. TikTok is a cesspool of some of the worst content that I have seen in my entire life. You have so many scammers, so many manipulators, so many abusers. Every single bad person who could possibly exist most likely has a TikTok and is most likely posting on that TikTok. But there is a trend, and cannibalism has been talked about on TikTok since TikTok became a thing. There are people talking about cannibalism fun facts. And actually, one of the reasons why I got my first tattoo was because I saw a TikTok saying that it would be less likely for me to get trafficked and also less likely for me to get eaten by a cannibal because apparently tattoos don't taste good. Whatever. The point is that cannibalism has been talked about on TikTok a lot. And whether it's someone talking about, cannibalism fun facts or talking about stories of different cannibals or even just sympathizing with cannibals, talking about different types of cannibals, justifying cannibalism. There's a lot on that side of TikTok. If you ever are curious, look it up. It's a very deep rabbit hole to get into on the cannibalism side of stuff. You have some people on TikTok thinking that they can, in a way, fix these murderers and cannibals, as if they're Captain Save-A-Ho or something like that. I don't really understand what that's about. What prompted me to watch Bones and All was because I saw a cute little TikTok, a little edit, if you will, and I was like, oh, this is a cute little romantic movie with Timothy Chalamet. I would love to see it because I love me some Timothy Chalamet. My head feels like it's in a bowl of soup right now, specifically minestrone, if you want to have a mental image of what I'm going through right now. I thought it was a silly little movie about some teens on the run, having a cute little romantic moment, and I was so very wrong. It's called Bones and All for a reason because they eat people. Um, TikTok kind of has two sides to this cannibalism fiasco. You have some people who find it funny, have little goofy little edits, talk about how romantic and cute it is, And then there are people who talk about conspiracies of cannibalism in history, predictive programming, priming, things kind of that nature. And I find it interesting how there are just two sides of cannibalism. Some people find it really goofy and fun. Other people find it like this is the worst thing ever and it is going to ruin our society. So obviously a common trope in movies is to have the audience, sympathize with a character. And whether it's a villain, a bad character, a good character, the way that directors kind of want to frame a movie is that they want you to be on someone's side. We typically want to believe the main character. We want to trust the main character. We want to sympathize with them and understand whatever they're going through, right? So in the case of Bones and All, the justification here is that, well, they were born that way. They have no choice. If they don't eat human flesh, they start to lose energy. They start to go crazy, and all this stuff. In this case, in this movie, if you haven't seen it anymore, spoilers ahead, but when the character Marion, I feel like it's Marion, Taylor Russell's character, she goes to visit her mother in the hospital, and her mother decided to no longer eat people and instead started eating her own arms off. So, yeah. So this justification is that they have to eat people in order to survive, kind of like in a vampire zombie-esque type of vibe. So as I mentioned in my video about gore, if you haven't watched it, go ahead and watch it. I'll link it above my head, wherever the little click place is. I never know where it is these days. I'll link it up there. I did a video on why we're obsessed with gore, and I feel like it kind of goes hand in hand with this video. And what I talked about in that video, I mean, there's more stuff that I talk about, but one of the main points is that we have a morbid curiosity. As human beings, we love to discover things, we love to learn things, but then when you feel like you've learned so much, your brain kind of gets bored and it wants to be stimulated with something else, So we get morbid curiosity because we've seen so much, whenever you see a video on YouTube that hasn't been taken down yet of a Logan Paul filming a dead body, you're going to want to see it because you want to know what it is. And then you watch it and you get shocked and you get disgusted or whatever. Or, you know, you are driving on the highway and you see a really horrible car accident, car caught on fire. You slow down and you look to see what's happening. And I think that this is kind of why people like cannibals so much, or more so want to base stories off of it and kind of understand it, because cannibalism is a morbid curiosity. People wonder what it's like to be a cannibal, you know? So it's interesting to think about. We all know that people kind of resort to cannibalism whenever it's like a life or death situation. Like, you know, if you're stuck in the mountains and you're on Mount Everest, who knows when you're going to be found. You may end up eating a person just to survive a little bit longer. You know, there's so many survivor stories, and no one ever, at least in my experience, has been like, you're a bad person, because it's like they were trying to survive. But the notion of becoming a cannibal just for funsies is very gross and is not morally correct at all, because no person would ordinarily be a cannibal, I feel like. But then there's an entire history of cannibalism within the world. So let's talk about it. I wanted to talk about the history of cannibalism because it is a long and extensive history about cannibalism in general. Though before I do get into it, I do want to mention there is this book called The Man-Eating Myth by William Ahrens. He basically claims that despite what anthropologists have discovered in the past, he believes basically that there is no firm and substantial evidence that there is cannibalism or that cannibalism has ever existed. So he kind of dismisses the claims of cultural cannibalism made against many peoples like the Aztecs and the Mayans, Spanish colonists, and, you know, the sub-Saharan Africa, people in New Guinea. Everywhere that there are people, he's like, there is no way cannibalism has ever existed. And it's an interesting book. You should read it if you care that much. But obviously I'm going to be talking about the history of cannibalism because I do think cannibalism has happened before. I do, however, think that, you know, whenever we look at old texts and whenever we look at history, it is typically told in the perspective of the victors of whatever wars that it is. It's told in the perspective of very, like, Eurocentric people. So, for instance, you know, back in those days, Europeans saw people that were not white as barbaric and savages. So, if they were to see a person doing something, they're going to favor it as very negative, and they could probably, you know, conflate some things or inflate some things just to make it seem, you know, a little bit whatever, to justify their racism or xenophobia or whatever it is. So cannibalism has been practiced for hundreds, thousands of years by early Homo sapiens and archaic hominins. Human bones have been defleshed by other humans going back 600,000 years, and the oldest Homo sapien bones from Ethiopia show signs of this as well. So obviously, you may make the argument that, well, maybe a animal skinned someone's bones, but it's probably not likely. You know, some anthropologists, such as Tim D. White, suggest that ritual cannibalism was common in these ancient societies, and this is prior to the beginning of the Upper Paleolithic period. This theory is based on the large amount of butchered human bones found in the Neanderthal and other lower middle Paleolithic sites. Cannibalism in the lower and middle Paleolithic may have occurred because of a food famine, you know, like a pandemic kind of situation. And it has also been suggested that removing dead bodies through ritual cannibalism might have been a means of predator control, aiming to eliminate predators and scavengers across hominid and early human bodies. Jim Corbett proposed that after major epidemics, when human corpses were easily accessible to predators, there are more cases of man-eating leopards. So they're removing dead bodies through ritual cannibalism. Before they had, you know, the instance where people were burying bodies or cremating bodies. They would just eat them for, you know, so they weren't, you know, breeding these leopards to start eating people for survival. Historically, even within this century, as early as like a couple years ago, there are active cannibals. There are people that go to visit African tribes and never come back. I think, honestly, if you're going to an island that is secluded and is not meant for you to visit, don't visit it. Leave them alone. They're doing just fine. They don't need your colonizer, you know, vibes. But cannibalism has happened here, it's happened all across the world. And whether it's an individual or a group, villages, towns, or a group of just gals doing their thing. Cannibalism is something that has been here for as long as time has existed. And I think that it's interesting that now we talk about cannibalism so flippantly. Like the fact that I thought, well, let me make a video about cannibalism. It's also a little bit strange. So, lastly, I just wanted to talk about movies and television and kind of that whole vibe when it comes to cannibalism. So, I don't know about you guys. Bronx, hey, sir, you're gonna get kicked out. Okay, everyone say bye to Bronx. So we've seen in commercials M&Ms eating themselves, Cinnamon Toast Crunch. Really, any of those cereal commercials are a little bit dodgy. We've seen conspiracy theories about cannibalisms in the wild, people going missing, like I mentioned before, like CNN reporters and stuff like that.
So he's eaten one man
One man,
and one woman.
one woman.
Is there any difference between the taste of a man and a woman?
Did
Did anyone ever eat a white man? Okay, so you've never seen a white man, so you didn't have the opportunity of eating a white man. That's fair enough.
We've even seen people talk about how the Krabby Patty formula, secret recipe, is just crabs. That's why it's called a Krabby Patty, because, cannibalism. We've been surrounded by cannibalism for a while. Even if it's fake cannibalism and it's animated and it's not real, it's been prominent. We've seen a lot of cannibalism in just little ways you may have not even noticed. Recently I watched The Menu. It was an amazing film, and I wanted to make a video essay on The Menu, but I kind of lost my inspiration for it when I got strep. So you may see a video on The Menu in like 4 months, like 3 months, perhaps 2. I have a lot of videos lined up, so it could be a while. But I recently watched The Menu. Amazing movie, phenomenal. I loved it. It was one of the last movies that I watched for 2022, and I loved it so much. Perfect satire, just chef's kiss. And as a person who works in the service industry and has worked in the service industry, I felt it heavily. But when I was looking at commercials for The Menu, because I go to the movie theater, even though I literally hate Nicole Kidman, I don't hate her, but if I see her face one more time in AMC, like I will purposely get up and walk out. And I know how long her opening speech is, and I literally know the words at this point because of how much I go to the movie theaters. That's not the point. When I was seeing commercials for this movie, I thought the big twist was going to be that he was killing people and feeding it to the next group of guests. I never thought the actual twist. I feel like it's a little bit more symbolic and it's very good, and I like that one. But I thought that he was just serving humans to people, and that's what made it so prestigious and why he had it on a secluded island and all this stuff. I had no idea what was actually going to transpire in that movie. But the notion that I believed that the movie was going to be about cannibalism, like I truly thought that's what it was going to be about when I went to watch it, and it wasn't. Says a lot about how media has been transforming recently. So some call it predictive programming or priming, whichever, or I can put definitions on the screen. I did not put it in my notes because I know what it means, but I'm not going to give you a definition because I know it's going to be wrong. I think that it's interesting because we see predictive programming a lot, especially with The Simpsons. The Simpsons has predicted a lot of things happening. There's so many compilations online of it. I'm sure you can find one if you really were looking for it, but it's pretty common knowledge that The Simpsons kind of predicts the future, quote unquote. It kind of in a way foreshadows or is alluding to something that could happen in the future. So when you see it, you're not as shocked by it. Kind of like you think about all the movies about the future and like things like that. Like the fact that I have a little robot, my Echo Dot, that I just talk to all the time. Like she's listening to me talk right now. And I just think about it. I'm like, this is a tiny little robot in my house. And if I wasn't watching the Jetsons growing up, or if I wasn't watching any of those movies about the future, I would have been freaked out if you would have told me that I would have a little robot in my room telling me what the weather is, every morning, or telling me things to purchase online, or answering my random questions. So I think, we look down on cannibals now, or really, oh, my light shut off. My lights shut off, so the angle might be a little bit different. I tried my best to replicate it as best as possible, but I had to recharge both of my lights. So that's exciting. But cannibalism has obviously been in film for a very long time, right? There are so many, famous movies, and actually recently the movie Soylent Green became more popular and was actually trending because of the recent rise in cannibalism in media, right? So we have movies like Soylent Green, Fresh, Bones and All, like I mentioned before, Monster, the Jeffree Star series, Silence of the Lamb, The Green Inferno, Raw, and so many more movies and TV shows. And it's just really interesting to me. As many of you guys know, I was a film and media studies student. That was my minor. So I did take a lot of film classes, a good chunk of them actually. And I do know that one thing that I learned in my horror films class is that cannibalism can sometimes be used as a metaphor for something, whether it is, desire, greed, um, gluttony, you know, um, wanting something that you shouldn't have, et cetera, right? So a lot of times directors will include cannibalism or something like that to have a bigger metaphor for life, like in Bones and All. I'm sure the metaphor here is just being an outcast from society and feeling alone and secluded. The cannibalism thing just makes it so you can visibly understand why they're different, though in reality in life, we're just different because we're different. And that's just how life is, right? So we've gotten to a point in society where, cannibalism is seen as something that is more prominent and more common in movies than not at this point. There is a lot of blurred lines when it comes to true crime coverage. Specifically, the way the Jeffrey Dahmer show was covered was very, I don't even know how to describe it. I have a video on it, actually. I'm 99% sure. I'll put the card up there if I did. I think I did. But basically, all this to say that in a matter of time, people are going to think that cannibalism is normal and they're not going to be as shocked. Now, some people say that Hollywood directors are just including cannibalism in more movies because they're already all cannibals. Like, there are multiple, congregations that like to eat people. So they say, I don't know. I haven't attended any of these, so I can't really speak to whether or not that's true, but there are rumors that there are people who are actively cannibals, mostly celebrities that do sacrifices and all that stuff to be more famous or whatever. So I think that this is really interesting, and I think that it's strange because in my incest video, I talked about how there was a reason why it was people were just more interested in incest because of the pandemic, and that became a really trending search term for adult entertainment sites and all that stuff. It's just really weird because there's really no reason for cannibalism to become more popular aside from the fact that groceries are becoming more and more expensive. We're in a recession right now. We're either in a recession or about to be in a recession. I went grocery shopping the other day and I spent like $100 and I barely got anything. And I grocery shop at Publix, so it's partially my fault. I am a Floridian, but still, I think that it's interesting that when we enter in a time where food is becoming, more scarce, that all of a sudden cannibalism becomes more prominent in TV shows and movies. I think that a movie that I personally enjoyed about cannibalism was Fresh. I really liked Fresh, and I thought it was an interesting take because that's kind of more so what I imagine whenever I hear celebrities or people talk about how celebrities like to eat people. I imagine there's like one dude that just kidnaps people and does something similar to like that movie. If you haven't watched it, watch it on Hulu. It's a good movie. Sebastian Stan is in it, and he is chef's kiss. But I kind of just wanted to wrap up this video and kind of talk about where we go from here. Now, this is typically how I like to end my videos. I like to give some sort of, resolution because obviously I can say cannibalism is bad and you all agree with me and then you close the video. But I want you guys to think, really. Leave your comments down below and let me know your thoughts on cannibalism. Not just like from a moral standpoint, because obviously I know your thoughts from that, but just about how it's portrayed in movies, because there really isn't anything we can do. Like, we can't protest the next movie about cannibalism. But we do live in a world right now where violence is increasing very heavily. We have people that are starving, homelessness is on a rise, unemployment is on a rise. Food is becoming scarce, and I think that it's interesting that cannibalism is becoming more popular. And I do wonder what this year is going to entail when it comes to content about cannibalism. I'm sure there's going to be a lot more, and I'm sure there's going to be some sort of discourse about some man, but whether it's true crime or not, cannibalism has been throughout the entirety of media and in the entirety of the world. it is something that is one of those dark curiosities, something that is, morbid curiosity, like we mentioned before. We don't like to talk about it, obviously, but it is something that is being shoved in our faces more and more with each movie that comes out. And I'm kind of curious as to see what the next couple years are going to look like in terms of cannibalism. I'm kind of curious. Obviously, I'm not pro cannibal. I'm pro eating normal food, what is meant for you, because obviously, I think there is probably like a Matt Pat like game theory or whatever theory video on eating people. I'm sure there is, but I think that eating people is wrong unless it like I feel like even in like a dire situation, I personally could not do it. I would just die. But I would not judge a person for doing it if they were like about to like die, But that's the only circumstance for me. But either way, that is my video. You want to say anything to the mic? He wants to say that. Well, if you guys like this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up because it does help little channels like mine. Make sure to subscribe to me as well. Share this video if you like. That would be very lovely and great. I really want to grow my channel this year. I want to take it more seriously. I want to become at least more prominent on YouTube. I want to start doing more content, but I kind of need a little bit more zhuzh to kind of get me there. So if you guys want to subscribe, share the video, do whatever, that would be really lovely, grand, and great. Also, if you just want to hear me talk about more stuff, that would be, nice. I guess. I don't know. I never know how to end my videos anymore. All right. Make sure to stay happy, stay healthy, and stay safe, and I will catch you guys in the next video. Bye, guys.